Today we're joined by Dr. Sima Goel, an accomplished chiropractor and certified wellness practitioner who has spent more than 30 years caring for her patients here in Montreal. But beyond her professional achievements, Sima has a deeply personal story to share.
In her memoir, Fleeing the Hijab, A Jewish Woman's Escape from Iran, she reflects on her upbringing in Shiraz and her courageous journey to freedom, an experience that has shaped both her life and her perspective. Today, we're going to focus on that journey, the story behind the book, and the experiences that continues to resonate with audiences.
Welcome to the podcast, Sima. We're learning a lot about Iran over the last few years in the news, protests, this year's items about oppression and violent crackdowns upon its citizens. And I was curious to learn more about firsthand stories of what was going on. I decided to pick up your book a couple of months ago, and I'm going to admit to you now and to our listeners and viewers, I couldn't put it down. I was mesmerized by your story. Maybe just give our viewers and listeners a little bit of a background about the story itself, about your story.
Well, I've been living in Iran. I used to live in Iran till 1982. My grandparents were living in there for as long as I can go back to my heritage on both sides. My mom was from a family of 12, and so did my father, was from a family of 12. I had a lot of cousins and aunts and uncles, and life was really good. We had huge, Shiraz was one of the three top Jewish community after Isfahan and Tehran, and we were very closely knitted. Things started to change slowly, but progressively in 1977, 1978. The 1978 in August, there was a big crackdown, a big fire that happened in Cinema Rex in southern Iran. They closed the door, the radicals, of the movie theater, and everybody that was there, they turned to ashes. That was, I remember it as if it was yesterday. It was a very, very difficult moment to digest. Why would anybody do such a thing? And things got progressively worse over time. And then they were coming to Baha'is neighborhood. Baha'is are a big minority in Iran, and burning their homes. And I thought, if they come for Baha'is, what stops them to come for the Jews? And adults were all scared, and there was no media that we could listen to. And I went to the dictionary to find out. They were claiming, the Islamic group claimed that they were doing this.
And how old were you around then?
15. Mm-hmm. And I found out that the name Muhammad means peace and tolerance. At the time, I was going to the private school for girls, and one of my friends who was Baha'i was very stressed out over these fires. And I said, let's go outside during the recess, we play volleyball. As we were playing volleyball, one of our other friends, whose father was part of the Shah's regime in the military, shouted, too bad they didn't burn your house, they should have burned your house too. And since I had already checked to see what the name of the prophet meant, and I said, do you know what your prophet's name means? And she didn't know. I said, it's peace and tolerance. Well, it's peace and tolerance to burning homes of innocent people. She ran to the principal. I got suspended. She didn't get reprimanded. So that was the beginning of the end for me in Iran. And then as the school, we graduated from that school, I was transferred to a school that had the highest amount of religious fanatics. And every day that I went to school, they were checking my knapsack not for gun, for the real gun, which is freedom of thoughts. And and one day my best friend didn't come to school for 3-4 days or more, and nobody knew what happened to her. And one evening, somebody knocked at our door and asked to speak privately with my mother. This is 1981 right now. And she spoke with my mother, and then my mother came in and said, you have to leave the house because your name is in the blacklist. What is a blacklist meant? And by the way, when there was the revolution happening in Iran, 1978, everybody was saying, long live freedom. Everybody. What I didn't know, there were people beside me shouting, long live freedom, that were all covered up. I wasn't covered up. Once the government changed, we lost the little freedom that we had about how we want our face.
And the government change, you're talking about going from the Shah to the Ayatollah.
To the Ayatollah. And slowly things got worse. Everybody had to cover up, whether you were Muslim or not. That's why I named my book Fleeing the Hijab, because over the years that I was in Canada and I was telling people that we had to dress up like everybody else there, they said, but that's impossible. No, that's possible. When they are majority, that is the rule of the law. When they're minority, they change. They want all the rules. So everything to their favor. So they came, then my friend got disappeared. I never saw my friend, and I left the house at 16. And my mother didn't know where I was. And the blacklist meant that they can arrest you, they can rape you. One of the things that they love to do in the current government, they believe that if you're virgin, you're going to go to heaven. So they rape the prisoners before they kill them or execute them. They don't even waste the bullet. They hang them on the street. And we had huge uprising in January. 40,000 people got massacred in 2 days. These are young kids.
So why do you think that with everything going on in social media, that we should have access to this information in a way that we didn't?
There is no internet in Iran right now, since January. They shut the internet. They can do everything they want to do in cold blood. Nobody knows. 350,000 people were tortured. The people who were injured, and they would aim for the eye to blind people, those who didn't get killed. And people who get injured, they couldn't go to the hospital because in the hospital they were waiting to kill them. So this is a horrifying thing right now that I heard, and it's awful. Somebody who was working in ER wrote on Telegram that, come to my house and I will help you stitch you up. They came to her house. They killed her in front of her husband. They took her dead body away and raped her and showed the video of that, sent the video of that to all her contacts. There's no humanity there.
It almost sounds like a blur between 1978 and 2026.
It got worse.
It's almost the same story.
It's the same thing, except now the youth are not buying this.
Right. So why do you think that there's not that outrage? Like, you lived this, you've seen it happen in the 70s, you're watching it happen again.
We can't have diplomacy with people who don't respect democracy. And they came out to the streets. They just said, we want freedom. And they were met with bullets. We cannot have discussion with somebody who doesn't have the same value. For them, they think they are the doctor, they have the key to the heaven, and everybody else who doesn't believe that their beliefs are infidels. And that is the current problem right now in Iran. Iranians are smart. We had the oldest history in all the cultures, 2,500 years. Iranians were Zoroastrians. Iranians had respect for each other. Iranians are closely knit. The law of the constitution was first introduced in Iran. The mathematics was from Persia. The history goes way back, and even the presence of Islam. And when they come, they become majority, and then everybody else has to abide by their rules. And that's a sad part.
The Persian Jewish community goes back well over 2,000
That's
years.
right, 2,500 years.
2,500
King
years.
Cyrus, yes.
And your family was
lived there forever.
forever in Shiraz and elsewhere. What was it like growing up as a young girl in Shiraz from a Jewish community perspective?
Well, it was wonderful during the Shah for the Jews. They have Jews raised to become professionals and to work in sectors that they weren't allowed to do before. But there was still anti-Semitism. I remember when I was 6 years old, I went to play with a girl in the park, and her mother asked me, "What's your name?" And I told my name. "What's your last name?" And when I said Goel, she just spit at me and took her kids away from us. And najest means impure, dirty. But secular people there, they were nice. We had lots of friends that we went to their houses. They came to our houses, many of my friends there and even now. But it's a political government that is trying to indoctrinate, not trying, they are indoctrinating. If you do not believe, if you not fear them and do one misstep, that's execution at its worst shape.
So how old were you exactly when you came to Montreal?
I was 16 when I left the house, and then I had nowhere to stay, and I came back home at 17 and stayed there for a while, and then my mom came to me and says, "This is not the life you're living." I couldn't go to school, I couldn't do anything. And I loved school. And she says, "Get out. You might die, you might live, but this is not a life." Had I been there, I would have been dead long time ago. And then I got smuggled out. And that night that I got smuggled out, it was so scary that I promised myself one day I'm going to write the book. And I'm going to say the testaments to what I had lived through. And then I shared my story at the event, and everybody said
at the Federation
at the
event,
Federation and at the Choices, and everybody said you have to write the story. So I started writing. I went to Google to check to see how long what is a book entitled. They said 70,000 words becomes a book. So I thought if I write 5,000 words every week, by 6 months it's done. 6 months later it's in every bookshelf everywhere across the globe. It wasn't like that. And I gave my book to read, for my son to read. At the time he was 11 years old. I said, "Read the whole thing. I can't see the typo." It took 5 years to write the book, and lots of editing. And I gave it to him to get the typos taken care of. And the first thing he said, "You are a big mouth." I said, "Keep on reading." And then he said, "Oh, Mom, you read the books that I am reading now." I said, "Remember you told me I was a big mouth? I risked my life to come here so you can read the books you're reading." And after he finished it, he said, we were going to CrossFit together at the gym at the time. They couldn't drive. And he said, "I love my country, I love my city, I love my family, I learned so much at school." And at the end he says, "I'm not sure if this is the influence of your book."
Wow.
So I know our youth have been through a lot in the last 5-6 years, in addition to everybody's stress of being youth. But I urge them to read this book, not because I'm so special, because they are special. Because we are, even at our worst day, right now, we are still living the best day of our lives. We are living a life that people in Iran are willing to go in front of a bullet for the hope that there will be a free tomorrow. And they can choose the way they want to dress. They can choose the way they want to go to school. They can choose what they like and they don't like. And nobody forces their opinion on them. And freedom to me is really the most important commodity in the world to choose, to make your own choices and live by the consequence of your choices. When I was in Geneva on a travel, a vacation, and I turned on the TV, and it says, it was something about government. When government is scared of their people, that's where democracy is. In tyranny, people are afraid of their government, and that's what's happening in Iran.
I would tend to agree with your son, but I would do it in more polite terms because clearly you had chutzpah from a very young age. To me, it sounds you got it a bit from your mother and a bit from your father, maybe more from your mom, I'm not sure. But you had no problem at the age of 15, 16, 17, and perhaps earlier to speak your mind. You knew you were going against the current. You knew that you were risking yourself. And you said in your book, you're doing it not just for you, you're doing it for your country, for your people, for your community, for your family.
Yes. I love reading book, and I think I said my book will be a contribution to all the books that I love reading. And this is the small gift I can give back.
You know, we have, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you know, we have today, you know, he said all the young people should read the book, but we know that often young people don't read books and they want everything in a 30-second clip that they can absorb quickly on Instagram. So what would your 30-second elevator pitch clip message be to young people who are maybe listening to this podcast?
Make your own choices. Learn to learn. From my experience, don't just believe what you hear. Know who is telling the message and what is their agenda. And make sure you stay true to your values, to your family values, to the Jewish identity. We've survived from the beginning of times, and we will survive this crisis too. But the point is, don't lose your family, because those are the people that love you. Those are the people that want the best for you. And your community. Together we're stronger. Together we can overcome everything. And the people who want, they say divide and conquer, they want us divided. And if we have one thing for us, is that we are, as a community, hold each other tight.
Absolutely.
And we go through the storm.
When I read about the night of your escape, and then the months that followed in Pakistan with your sisters, with strangers, with smugglers, you recount the story in such vivid detail. It was an immersive experience. It was like the reader, like myself, was with you at that moment. That must have been painful to recount and to tell that again.
Actually, the hardest part, writing the book was cathartic. But the hardest part was when I was asked to speak at choices for my event. The entire month before I presented, the entire month I cried. I had no idea how much I was hurting. Like I opened the vault to go in and to look at it. And when I wrote the book, I didn't, and as I mentioned in one section of the book, I'm not writing the book to ask for your pity and, oh, poor thing. That wasn't the reason I wrote the book. If one thing was different, I wouldn't be sitting here telling the story. I'm grateful for everything happened. And one more thing, at every crossroad, an angel came and led me through. And Federation was one of them too.
In reading the book, I got the sense that if you could go through what you went through at all these steps, from when you were 6 years old in that playground to 15, 16, dealing with the change of regime and then finally fleeing, if you can overcome that, you can do anything. That's what I got from it. And I've told that to many, many people I've spoken to and to my family in the last month or so. Whatever it is in your life, in their life, that they choose to do, that they succeed, it pales in comparison to what you went through. But everyone goes through something cathartic in their life that gives them hope.
Absolutely.
And gives them a chance and gives them resilience to do something.
It's a
greater.
life. I say we are all part of life university. Seriously. It's a lot of peaks and valleys. And as long as you say something good will come out of this, in a very hard time. I don't want to mention the story, but very hard, and you read it in the book toward the end. That was a very hard thing that happened in our family. And I was crying. It was hard. And I said, let something good come out of it. And that's why that led me to my wellness certification, because I wanted to find out what I can do to stay healthy. And I'm giving that as a gift to people around me. We are not victim of circumstances. We are victor. And one of my favorite quotes from all the writers is Dr. Viktor Frankl, that he was interviewed and they told him, how did you survive Holocaust? He said, during the Holocaust, they took everything away from me. But they could not take my freedom to choose. Between a stimuli and response is your freedom to choose. What are you choosing? Are you choosing to be a victim? Or are you choosing to say, oh, there's a lesson to be learned in this? How can I learn the lesson and use it to my advantage?
Sima, before we close up this segment, you wrote your book over a decade ago, 12, 13 years ago. How do you feel that it resonates? You wrote a story from decades ago, you wrote it 1 decade ago, and here we are in 2026 and we're seeing the same kind of things going on. How do you feel your story resonates with today's geopolitical situation?
It's the same story. It's just that I was an early adopter. I was, when you look at the bell curve, there is an outlier on either side. I saw earlier what was going on. But what I saw, and that's everywhere in politics, you see it, everywhere in the world, in the science, there are always outliers. There are some people that can see the trouble before the trouble comes to them. So it's the same story. It's just that now more and more people are in that country and they need to be supported. They need us to say, I see you, I hear you, and there is a price for freedom to be paid, and they will get through it. I know, I'm certain that, and confident that Iranians will be, they're hostage to the government now, and there is a freedom on its way.
I hope that you're right.
I know I am. Look, throughout the history, which tyrant is still alive?
Oh, you're right.
Because a lot of times we give them too much power. They are more fearful than us. And if they didn't have their guns, they have nothing. And truth always prevails. Love always prevails. Sometimes it's a rocky road to it, but it always prevails.
Sima, I hope your words resonate far and wide. Beyond woman, life, freedom, it's freedom for everybody, wherever they are, who may be oppressed. But in particular, we're talking about your home country, your place of origin.
When I came to Canada, I was so grateful that I found a free land that embraced me. I did not want to change the rules here to make me comfortable. I was ready to embrace this country and saying thank you. And that is what I want people to realize. You come to this country, they embrace you. Welcome the new. Let go of the shedding the skin of the old. Keep what is good from the past, but embrace this and make this new home.
Fantastic. Such a good lesson for everybody.
Sima, it's an honor to meet you. Thank you so much. I hope people will buy your book and read your book.
The book is on Amazon. It's also on Kindle, and Bibliophile has it too. And anybody who can contact me as well if they want me to autograph them.
And it's called Fleeing the Hijab, a
Jewish
woman's escape from Iran.
Yes.
Marvelous.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome